Hey, everybody. I am Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder and executive editor of Running Wild Press. And this is another Run Wild with Us Storytellers Happy Hour. I'm here with my co host, Tihi Hazlett, and our special guest, Alicia. And Alicia's book, Something is Better Than Nothing, actually comes out with Running Wild Press this upcoming March. And it is a fantastic memoir. You guys are going to pick it up. For those of you who are totally new to our Storytellers Happy Hour, this is how this jammy works. So, before we actually came online, Ruben brought up our beautiful bowl, and actually he'll explain this in more detail. But we are all sitting around drinking. I have my lovely cup o' magic right here. And we are going to basically tell whatever stories come to mind based on a prompt that we've received. So with that, I am now going to hand this off to Tihi. And for context too, so Tihi is also an amazing storyteller. His short story collection, Dark Corners, was named one of the best of 2019 by Kirkus. So this should be a blast. Okay, Tihi.
Yay! I also think I have kind of a doozy of a story too. And I'm really excited about this show because me and Alicia have known each other for a long time. We went to college together. And in undergrad, we went to a really insane place for undergrad where a lot of insane things happen. Some of it is in Alicia's book.
How are we alive?
I don't know how we survived. Now I'm thinking I'm just immortal and I can't be destroyed. So the process, just minutes before we went live, I have a bowl full of prompts. There's not very many left. We started the season with about 30.
Yeah.
So we've gone through, we don't recycle them at all. So it's always going to be something different. I drew for each person. And we're going to go in the order in which we drew. So Lisa is going to start. And her story prompt is pre-pandemic drinking story.
Okay.
Remember before COVID?
So before I go there, if anybody who's watching, if you guys have ideas for prompts, go ahead, put it in the chat. We would love your ideas for future episodes because we do this once a month. So we've got a whole lot of stuff coming on. So you've got a great idea. Go ahead, pop it in the chat. We want to hear it. Also, if you missed our live streaming event on December 15th, where we announced our upcoming catalog, and I had a killer interview with Purchisa Kakpour, who is one of the most brilliant and amazing authors in both fiction and nonfiction you will find. And you missed the fact we have another Best of 2020 by Kirkus that is by Terrence Hawkins. That is out now. So if you missed all that, baby, you need to go back and check out that video because it is killer. Okay, now with that, my prompt, pre-pandemic drinking story. So the reality is I barely remember drinking before the pandemic. I barely remember my life before the pandemic period. So I'm reaching back quite a bit. Now, like most people who are in the writing community, we all go to conferences, we all go to workshops, and I used to go to quite a few, including when we were in grad school. So Alicia, Tihi, and I all went to the same grad school. And in our grad school, we oftentimes would go to AWP, the Association of Writers and Writing Programs. So there was one year that I went, and I was hanging out a lot with some of our fellow MFAers. And by the way, the acronym for our MFA was FUMFA, which to this day, I love beyond compare. So us FUMFAers were all hanging out. And I don't know what, there was something in my life that at that point that had been really traumatic. And when I'm really hyper stressed out, I tend to drink. And I also tend to not really be aware of how much I'm drinking at the time. So I can drink a lot. I mean, like a crazy amount and not even be aware of it. Okay. So I'm sitting there at a bar with some of my fellow FUMFAers, and I'm ordering martinis. Now, mind you, I'm pretty sure it was gin martinis. And I don't know why, but at that stage in my life, I didn't realize that was pure alcohol. So I want you to let that sit with you for a second.
Or pine tree alcohol, Lisa.
Yeah.
I am drinking. I think I had 4 or 5 in one sitting over maybe the course of like 3 hours, if that. And the people that I'm with were like, hey, we're going to go back to our hotel room, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I just need to find my credit card. And I'm desperately looking around for my credit card. I can't find it. So they leave me there, right? And I'm like, okay. So I think I ordered another drink because they had no idea that I couldn't find my credit card.
Why not?
I continue drinking. Again, let's sit with this. Pure gin martinis. And knowing me, I was probably also drinking water because in my head, that counterbalances. Which is bullshit. So I'm sitting there and another FUMFAer shows up and they said, look after her. So he's, looking after me and I'm like, I can't find my credit card. So I just continue to order these pure gin martinis. And then I think I actually fell asleep where I was sitting. I don't remember a whole lot about like that period of time between beginning drinking and when I finished drinking. So, but he's like, are you okay? All that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be fine. So at some point it occurs to me to lift my butt. And guess what? I had been sitting on my credit card the whole time. And at this point, I'm probably like six gin martinis in. And I literally don't remember. I remember paying my bill, and I kind of remember somehow I got to my hotel room, and I kind of remember passing out. And thank God it was actually good gin, because anyone who's been a drinker, if you drink cheap stuff, and not just gin but any alcohol, the next day you are toast. It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what you do. You are so sick if it's cheap booze. So thank God this was actually good booze, because that meant I could walk the next day. But I'm pretty sure I also had to drink a whole lot of water. And the more water I drank, let's just say my body self-cleansed itself. So my friends actually looked me up after just to make sure I was okay. I think I had a raging headache, which would make sense after 6 to 8 gin martinis over maybe 4 or 5 hours, something like that. So needless to say, it really was not one of my better moments. But I can say that I'm still alive, so that part's good. And thankfully, that is not something that I do. I don't drink like that frequently. So that's my pre-pandemic, one of actually many boozing stories. So
See, but for like Tihi and I, that's responsible pacing. Like we're like, why?
You're like, what's the problem? Of course you drink that
Do you
way.
remember our Grey's Anatomy nights? Like that.
Yes.
I'm just thinking, like, remembering the hair tie I used to keep on my wrist. And we'd be like 4 hours into Grey's Anatomy night. And I'd be like, hang on. Then I'd come back and we'd just keep going.
Do you remember the one time we just pulled together spare change so that we could go buy some liquor?
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
A segue, because that belongs on like one of those posters that just says teamwork at the bottom. Yeah.
Wow.
So many. I wanted to ask you, Lisa, was this the AWP conference in Tampa? Because this sounds like a very Tampa thing to happen.
It does, doesn't it? Oh my God. Actually, I think it was the one in Portland.
Oh.
I'm not sure. But it was Chris Madden who was with me in the beginning. and then
Mhm.
stitched me to uh Adam? No, that's not right. One of the poets who I think he actually ended up. I think I actually was the last one in the bar. I think everyone actually left.
Was this that upstairs bar?
I think so.
Because I was sitting next to Susan Smith Daniels, and I also got pretty ripped. But like Georgia Southern has like trained me now, where there's like this light switch internally, where it's like you cannot drink anymore. You need to go home right now because you have like about 30 minutes before you're gonna lose consciousness.
Stopped
Oh
giving
my god!
I transferred there. Like you might have been the last one to get that.
That's awesome. No, I literally fell asleep at like I can still I was like it's like yeah it's okay. And then like you wake up and you got the drool going on. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In
I'm
public.
Like, no, I'm not. There's no. I'm fine.
Fine.
I'm fine. I can walk. Don't question me.
Bad. There. Remember conferences?
Oh yeah. I mean now they're all online, man. Every conference is online. If that. It's so you can't really have that same experience. I mean now I've got other conference drinking stories that are like, a whole bunch of people sitting around just like, getting trashed over the course of, multiple hours. So, but they're not as funny.
Collectively, we should also mention this. We went to grad school on an island. And collectively, we probably have a lot of drinking stories about the island.
And on the island, every dinner they provided white and red wine.
And I took advantage of said free wine.
And it was as much as you wanted. So they just
Brain
it.
Man, I want to almost do like a hand symbol, like Crane Lake. Crane Lake for life.
Right? Get the tattoo, get a CL tattoo for Crane Lake. Like, oh my God. And that actually wasn't necessarily the best quality wine, but your body got just adjusted to it.
After like 10 days, yeah, like by the end of it, and then you're in Crane Lake withdrawal when you come back to the mainland.
I bought some when I came back after my first semester. I bought it at Whole Foods, and it is not cheap at all.
I bet. Yep. So, and like, talk about a cliche though, right? Like a bunch of writers on an island for their grad school, and we're all sitting around drinking free booze for dinner. I mean, you would end up craving it. Like I remember there was one night I was like, oh my God, I have to get all this work done. And I asked them, can I take a bottle in my room? And they were like, sure. So I took like two bottles of red wine to my room, and I would drink it like on the side. Like it's crazy. Now it's crazy, but yeah.
Yeah, man. I would definitely want to just print out the label of Crane Lake. I'll just get that tattooed somewhere on me.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder if that's a butt tattoo. That might be a butt tattoo.
That would be a hilarious butt tattoo. It may need to be a butt tattoo. For real. I am not getting Crane Lake tattooed on me. It would be awesome if it turned out like a whole bunch of people did that. That would be fantastic.
I know I'm like the right amount of headspace for this event. I'm thinking like that would be actually like not the worst idea.
No. This is because we're like Meredith and Yang. Like,
yep. The cheap vodka and the Coke Zero, and at a certain point in the night, after Ruben has spent hours binge watching these DVDs with me, going, the writing is so bad, but I can't stop watching it. And he would just look at me and be like, you're my person. We're like sisters. That's us. And I'm like, it is. I love you so much.
it took me years to quit Grey's Anatomy. Like Like, people have to like quit alcohol or quit cigarettes. Like, I know I can do them eventually because I quit Grey's Anatomy. And like once every 3 years, I get tempted because I hear something crazy. Like, did you hear that this happened? And you're like, oh my God. And I'm like, no.
Article, like, I know what happened. I know everything that's happened on that show since I quit, but I have not actually.
That's hilarious.
It is a life journey to get over Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy is a personality trait at this point.
Clearly. I've never seen Grey's Anatomy, just so you know.
Are you a millennial, Lisa?
No.
Okay, that's why. It's a millennial personality trait, like drinking an avocado toast. Like,
What's wrong? I love avocado toast.
It's a millennial addiction, is what I will call it.
Okay.
I do think that Grey's Anatomy is an addiction. We're just gonna have to collectively some mental health resources, hopefully funded by the government, and like we can finally end Grey's Anatomy for everyone.
Hilarious.
All
That's
right.
awesome.
So the next prompt is for Alicia. I'm so excited because Alicia is Italian, so I know that she's got a lot of opinions about cooking.
I gotta tell you, for a second, I thought that said cocking, and I'm like, wait, what?
I also thought so.
Oh, never mind.
And I literally wrote it, and I'm like,
okay,
thank you, past me for not writing cocking.
you thought it, was and you watched me look at it and go, I got it. This took a turn to a place.
I'm all ears. Bring it.
I am a phenomenal cook. It's not a brag. It's true. Ruben
Okay.
has Tihi. I'm sorry. When I met him, he was Ruben.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. I cooked in my dorm. I catered my own wedding. It's one of
Wow.
the things that my husband fell in love with was my cooking. When I moved to Germany with my husband on a military post, I married very young. I was 22. So I was very like, I'm tame now. Like, this is me tame in my old age, but I was very jealous, very petty, which, as you can imagine, does not mesh well in a military community. So while I was a good cook, I would take umbrage with being told that certain events required like us to make a dish and show up. And I'm like, bitch, I work. Like, just to raise hell. Like, it wasn't a big thing. So I did not get along with my community, but I did cook a lot for these events. So if nothing else, when someone would bring up Barksdale's wife, they would say, oh, she's batshit crazy. Damn, she can cook. That's what I'm working with here. Okay, so what was this? 2012. So I'm 3 years into my marriage, so I'm just shy of 25. Some information has just come to light about some, I'll use Papa's word for this, some scallywag business that Chris had been involved with that I had just found out about that had happened before we were married. And me being young and extra, I'm like, everything I know is a lie. He's worse. I would go into work and I'd be like, where's my flowers? And my coworkers, who were like, that was the only family and friends I had there, would be like, you don't like, you've literally said you don't. I'm like, I want the gesture. Like, where's the ass kissing? Like, I am furious. I had stopped wearing my rings, which was like, it's, by the way, not wearing your rings just when you're mad is like a terrible thing to do, but I did it all the time. Like, even the most minor inconvenience, the ring's gonna be flying at you, better duck. So also, he's like a couple months past his deployment, so he's got his own issues. And then like we're on this now. So, as was customary back then, I cooked his meals every night. It was my thing. It was how I got people to like me. You know, like it was my love language. And so when I went into this place of knowing this scallywag business, I will freeze you out because the worst thing you can do to me when you're mad at me is not talk to me. It's not yelling, it's don't talk to me. It will drive me crazy. So I went into this place where I didn't talk to him. We lived in a small, tiny apartment. I didn't say a word to him. He slept on the couch.
Wow.
I didn't talk to him. Didn't acknowledge him when he was in the house. Like he would be coming, I'd be walking, I would like veer off and just pretend like he wasn't there. And I stopped cooking. And I would just come home and I would get my case of Bud Light and I'd watch TV and just ignore this man. He didn't even think to take the remote from me because why would you? Don't touch my program. Towing around me in fear. You're on my list. Do not talk to he knows. He knows and I know, and that's the way we're living. So a week into this endeavor, so I'm angry, but I also don't like to waste food. And I notice that I have purchased some lovely bison steaks that are about to go bad. And, you know, I was raised like poor, so we don't waste food. You clean everything on your plate. Like, I haven't practiced religion a long time, but someone throws away food, I'm like, that's a sin. Like, eat your food. So I'm like, I'm already half in the bag too. Like by the time I realize like I'm like, I want to cook these steaks. So I went ahead and cooked the steaks and they were incredible. Like I knew they were good. Like, you know, when you cook something, you don't even need to taste it. You know, it's good. But I had run out of garlic powder. So I went with onion powder. So whatever you bit into was going to taste different. I cook the steaks and I make some seared asparagus because I need a side. I'm not an animal. I'm not just going to cook steaks. But also I'm in the dark place, so I'm not going to eat it either. Like, I'm just going to cook it and put it on the counter, and like, he needs to eat it so that we don't sin by throwing it away, right? I cook my steaks, I cook my asparagus, I lay it out on the counter, and I go back to getting wasted on my couch and watching Captain America. That's what I'm doing. He comes home. And like he comes in with like the head down and the hey, and I'm just sitting on the couch like. But also I want him to notice that there's food because like it's a sin to waste food. Like whatever I'm angry about can wait until I don't want this like buffalo to die for nothing. Like please. So he's like getting ready and he goes to sit down. He's clearly not noticing it. I'm waiting for him to notice it. And finally, I'm just sitting there silently, and I'm like, there's food on the counter. And he's like, oh, did you make this? And it's like, that's all the information I'm willing to give you right now. Like, so he makes himself a plate, but he sits down, and I'm just sitting there, like, side-eyeing. He's like, you're not going to have any? And I'm like, nope. And he cuts into it, and you can tell I always season my steak the same way. It's gonna taste the same, no matter what. But because there's I love garlic. Everything I have, I just ran out. So he bites into it, and it's not bad, but it's different. And he's like, "Did you do something different?" And I was like. And you can tell that he's at the point now where he's like, this is different. She's angry and she's not eating.
Am I poisoned?
But also, if I don't eat it, I don't want to know what's going to happen if I smite her food and shun it away. And you can tell at that moment he had reconciled himself to the fact that like there's a 50-50 shot here. But I would rather be poisoned right now than
Wow.
incur the wrath of this scorned woman. And he ate it all, but he looked so fucking scared. And I'll tell you, as a woman scorned, that's the greatest gift of all.
That's better than flowers.
Better than flowers.
Wow.
Pure terror.
Fear is the gift that keeps on giving. He thought it was poison. He dead ass thought I poisoned him and ate it anyway because being poisoned was better than me being mad that he didn't eat my food.
Wow.
I can see this so clearly in my head because I also know Chris. He's just like, well, I'm gonna go one way or another.
I go out. Like, you can see, you know, in the movie where like they reconcile themselves to like, all right, I'm gonna die right now. I'm gonna go out. This is how I'm gonna go out. Like when they've realized like this is it.
That's awesome.
That the joy brought me. He's not gonna ask either. He didn't want to ask because again, like, it's better to just be poisoned than to make me mad.
Yeah. And I've also seen you mad. So I also understand. And can confirm, Alicia catered her own wedding. You made lasagna, right? It was bomb.
Chicken marsala, devil bruschetta. We had some good eats. Yeah.
Wow.
It was really, really good.
Yeah.
It was really good.
It was like not even a dozen of us. Like, why am I gonna pay so? No. If you want something right, you got to do it yourself.
Yeah. We also got mani-pedis the day of your wedding, which was my first mani-pedi ever.
Oh, wow.
That's right. Yeah. I forgot you were with us. So that was you.
I officiated your wedding, Alicia.
I know you were in my wedding. That, like, you hung out with my mom and sister and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because my mom was like road raging her way into parking spaces.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I feel like I would remember like a commentary from him, but he probably got the vibe from my mom like, your commentary is not wanted. Because she was like, she's going up one ways, cutting people off her, waiting for spot. I remember screaming on my wedding day, you have douched your way into that parking space, Mom. You can't do this.
You told me so many stories about your mom that I had this like image of your mom, and then I met your mom, and it was so accurate. I was like, none of this is hyperbole. And then like the stories you told me about your mom told me after the wedding when we're all drinking party.
Yep. Petties. And to Walmart because she wanted a tape player. And Doggo's, which has been since closed down because it was filthy.
Wow. Oh my god, that's hilarious.
We have beautiful history together.
But, and the other thing that I remember about the wedding too, because I ended up spending some like evening time on the porch with your father-in-law, I think. And we just had this like amazing beers on the porch conversation, watching the fireflies and the fields and the stars and stuff like that.
You don't remember that the same way though.
Huh?
I feel like you don't remember that the same way as I remember that. Because I remember my very conservative, like, serious father-in-law just kind of nodding and playing along with you.
Oh, snap.
Not being super intolerant, which was what I was worried about. And I remember him just silently being a team player and, like, and you came in and were like, we just had the most incredible conversation. And I just picture my father-in-law coming in and be like,
Probably. I also had this big blonde afro.
Kimberly Stevens says mom is listening, just so you know.
we didn't say anything bad.
No disrespect.
Yeah, no,
whatsoever.
absolutely not. Like, in the most loving way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Tracy Garcia says that story is amazing, and I'm dead from laughing so hard. I can see it happening in my head.
Yes.
Woo!
I love doing this on this platform because we get to see comments like in
Right?
real time.
Totally.
The only one who can see the comments, though, right?
You got to hit the comments tab. We're getting
Yeah.
a little meta here because I just hit it now. So I'm like,
I don't.
Yeah.
If
If you just hit the comments tab underneath where you can see our screens, like literally just tap it. If you have a touch screen.
Oh.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that's you, and I'd rather just see you all fly blind. It's fine.
yeah. Alrighty. So I don't know how to make this segue because I'm about 3 beers in and I just grabbed another for backup. But my prompt, exotic pets, is going to involve somebody that me and Alicia both know.
I know who you're gonna say.
I know. Like, you know the whole story.
I'm so excited.
But it's a Georgia Southern story, and I've been flexing my Georgia Southern story muscles here in Puerto Vallarta. So, like, I don't want to disparage my ex. I was recently dating somebody for about 2.5 years, and he hated whenever I told a Georgia Southern story because they're crazy. And they just get crazier, and then they end. So I couldn't tell Georgia Southern stories for the longest time. But now I'm gonna bring it. But because this is also broadcast and yeah, we're all casual and stuff like that, I'm gonna leave out a couple of important details because I did not get consent from people. But here we go. So I'm in college, I'm in undergrad. I move into a double wide trailer, the only double wide trailer in the park. So we thought we were hot shit. And we had a lot of extra rooms, and we have a friend, Deborah. So like one of the first times I met Deborah, and me and Alicia know Deborah, we've been in classes with Deborah. So before Deborah moved in, like a year or so before that, I ran into Deborah on campus, and she had this like weird line around her face. And I was like, Deborah, what's going on? And she's like, oh, my snake bit me in the face. And I was like, oh, you have a snake? And she was like, yeah, like it bit me. The next time I met Deborah was at a house party she was hosting, and I had somehow forgot that she had a snake that she lived with that was large enough to bite her entire face. So I show up, and I'm like, I got vodka and I got beer. And she's like, put them in the fridge. And I open the fridge, and there's like 4 frozen rabbits. And so I just like move them because I'm trying to be polite. It's the South, like hospitality. Like, I'll ask her about the dead rabbits in her refrigerator later.
Yeah.
For right now, I'm just going to put the vodka in the freezer. So then I asked her, and she was like, oh, yeah, because that's what the snake eats. The snake is named Ka, like from the Jungle Book. He's a 12-foot python. And he eats a lot, and he eats rabbits, like the size of a brick rabbits. Yes. So,
Alicia, I think you're on mute.
I think you're on mute, Alicia. Yeah.
I had to help feed him once. Not
Yeah.
as
I'm gonna get into that. So here's how Deborah and Ka ended up living in our double wide trailer. So we moved into our trailer, and we went to go visit Deborah at her house, and her apartment was having some sort of mold situation. She was always being sick. The snake was also sick. And we saw the mold, and that day we moved her into our double wide trailer. We were like, look, we got a room for you. We have a room for Ka because it's a 12-foot python, and he should maybe have his own room. Problem is, it's also the room where the wireless router is, and that generates heat, and snakes like to, cuddle up around heat.
Yeah.
So we would be like studying, doing our thing, and then we would lose internet. And we were like, what's going on with the internet? Like, blah, blah, blah. We're like calling people, texting, like trying to figure everything out. And then somebody's like, has anyone seen the python? And we're like, oh, let's go look at the router. And he's like coiled himself completely in a ball around the router. And that's why it doesn't work. And so you have to Did
she let him move freely about the trailer like she did in her apartment? Like he was like a house pet. Like he just thing.
We tried because we at first just let him move around freely, but our dumbasses got so used to him, we didn't think to warn people when they came over. So we just like bring people over. Huh?
You got a dachshund at some point too, right?
We did, and we had to have like a little sign, like
Oh
snake
my
out, dog
God.
out, because the dachshund was about the size of the rabbits we fed the
Yeah.
snake. So
Exactly.
You have unlocked like these like glorious memories.
But yeah, we would bring people over like after school on like a Friday. We're like, let's drink and pregame for before whatever party. And they're sitting there laughing and having a good time. And then they just start screaming. And we're like, oh my God, what's wrong? What's wrong? And they're like, there's a giant fucking snake. And we're like, oh, that's Ka. He's harmless. He's just a snake. So then we were like, maybe we should put him in his room. But Ka actually learned how to open doors in the trailer. Because they had like little round doorknobs, and he would like slither himself over and then use the weight of him to open the door and then get out.
That snake, that's just scratching the surface. That snake did some things.
Yeah. We can't get into all.
No, we can't get into all of that because even on this platform, it's like not appropriate. But
Exactly. So a lot of times I would be at home, like, you know, writing my like fiction or nonfiction in my room, which was right next to Ka's room. And he would like open the door, but the first place that he always went was the bathroom. You know, because he's a python, he's used to the jungle, he wants to be in trees, and he's living in a double wide trailer. In a trailer park, there's like no sort of equivalent thing except for the shower curtain rod, right? Like that is the closest thing to a branch you can get. But we also fed him way too often, so he's fat. So he would slither up and then try to like plant himself on the shower curtain rod and then fall. And like it's a 12-foot python, so it doesn't fall all at once. It's like thump, 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 thump. And then you hear this like
Oh my God.
and he was so frustrated he couldn't. So, and then another fun thing about, before we get into feeding the snake, is laundry. So if you're running the dryer, like the snake will eventually get there. Like snakes have a personality, but everything is just a heat signature, right? And they're cold-blooded. So when they want to be warm, they just go to wherever it's warm. So it would be like if you did your laundry, but you opened the door when the laundry was done to like air it out before it gets, you know, so it's not like super, super hot when you touch it. If you did that, the snake would get into your laundry. And then you take your hamper into your room, dump it on the bed, and a 12-foot python comes out with all your clean clothes, like just like writhing in it all because it's like, and you're like, this is fine. This is totally fine.
This is normal. Everyone does this. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
And because I'm in my early 20s and I'm like a dumb bachelor, I didn't always put my laundry away. So it's just warm in my bed a lot. And like, as like a chronically single person, I was like, there's an upside to this because I could like, it's like almost human shape. I can like cuddle it. And so then you're cuddling it and then you run into like scales because like, the snake is also cuddling it. And the first time this happened, I was like, you know, I have a choice. I have a choice to freak out. Or I can just cuddle the snake. And I often just cuddled the snake.
Oh my God.
So feeding the snake. We had this big plastic tote thing that was like clear.
it was like a plastic storage bin.
Yeah, it was a plastic storage bin. You got to put Ka in first.
With that, she had cut out the square hole on top and put like a little like, what was it, like a grate or a mesh so he could see out.
Yep. So you put the snake in first, then you have to take one of the rabbits out of the freezer and like thaw it because it's frozen. But then once it's thawed, you can put it in the oven to cook it because the snake is all about heat signatures, right? So if it's like a frozen rabbit, he's never gonna find it. Like,
right.
You know, so you have to, that takes a while. And as that starts to happen, the snake gets excited. So that's why the snake has to stay inside the storage bin the
This
whole
is terrifying. I'm just saying.
I have no, this is tame compared to when she invited me over and I found out why she invited me over to help her. No.
Yo, yeah, because it takes two people, because somebody has to have 911 ready on the dial, because
there were three of us
yeah,
because this mine was freaking crazy.
because anything over 8 feet is enough to kill a human, right? So you need two people. One person to feed the snake, one person to be ready to hit send on 911 in case things go south.
Wow.
So, and that was usually me, although one time I was the person who sat on top of the thing. Because like once the rabbit is ready and you have to stick a meat thermometer up the rabbit's butt because its internal energy or its internal heat has to be hot enough for the snake to see it.
Right.
So once you get it there, that smells and that's not pleasant. We always make Deborah do that because it's her fucking snake. So then when it's ready, it's like, it's ready. And you're sitting on top of the thing and there's like that little corner and you peel it back and the snake is going all crazy because it can smell things and it can sense the heat, and you throw the rabbit in and you sit on, and then you close the lid and you sit, and like two people usually have to sit on it because it's going to move and jiggle and stuff because the snake is excited, but snakes are also stupid. So it would take him a while to find the rabbit.
Oh my God.
Sometimes he would have like burns on his scales the next day because the rabbit was like sitting there touching him, but he still couldn't find it for some reason. And we're like, eat the damn rabbit, eat the rabbit. Also about scales, he liked to shed his scales in the bathroom, in the bathtub. So like trying to unclog a bathtub filled with
fucking disgusting. I dry heave when I pull my own hair out of a drain. I'm not pulling some snake's skin out of a drain.
We had so many screwdrivers in the bath, and people are like, why do you have screwdrivers in your bathroom? And it's like, because we need them. You have to like stab through the clump of scale so that water can finally fucking drain out of the bathtub.
All right, so I have to ask, why the hell did she have a snake as a pet?
So the origin story.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Deborah. I'm not going to say everything, but the origin story is that Deborah did acid one time, and when she came out of it, she had a python in her dorm room that she had apparently bought or acquired while she was under the influence, and decided to just keep it. But because the snake lived in this apartment with black mold, like its lungs got really bad, and the snake died. Which was really sad. Yeah. So, but you know, Deborah wants to memorialize it, maybe make some boots or like a purse or whatever. So she's trying to figure out how to skin it. And
she ate him too.
Oh yeah, we all did. Heather's the one, my other roommate Heather is the one who figured out the right way to skin a snake so that we can get all of it. But then we have all this leftover meat. So we threw up the barbecue and we ate him.
Okay.
He was good. It was barbecue. Started a lifelong love of seafood for me because I grew up in landlocked Iowa, so was probably not going to eat snake in my life, but it was fine. I also
that snake like a lap dog though. Like she would take him to parties.
Yeah.
Drape him around her neck.
Okay.
So the snake was treated like a house pet.
Yeah.
So I went to her apartment. She invited me over. I was going Chris while we were dating, and she was trying to cheer me up. So I made everybody chicken parm. And while I'm cooking, I hear a can drop on the floor, and there's a freaking snake on the counter, just slithering. And she's like, "Oh, that's just Ka."
No.
Okay.
No.
But she invited me to help feed that snake. But when you don't feed the snake when the snake needs feeding, they then become dangerous because then everything looks delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So by the time I got there, I thought I was just helping. No, the snake, somebody had to sit on there because he was striking against the lid.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then had to sit on the lid. And then someone had to come up quickly with the rabbit on the platter and do this. And then, because because the snake was going to try to kill us, which I was not told before I helped feed the snake.
Oh my God.
I'm like, why do you need help feeding your snake? Like, throw it in. Because the snake was trying to kill us.
And the snake is 12 feet long, right? Like it's...
This thing could kill you. And I didn't realize how strong they were because I sat on top of that bin and everything I had.
Yeah, no, you guys are some amazing friends because there is no way, no freaking, I would be like, yep, good for you. On. Like, I'll call 911. You call me and I'll call 911, but my Heidi's not going to be there.
I think it was because of her energy, though. So, like, if she wasn't worried, like, it's really harming, you know.
That makes sense.
Oh, that's just Ka.
Yeah. Like, this isn't a big deal.
Ka had bit her like 3 times since I had known Deborah, but she was never afraid of Ka. And so I was never afraid of Ka.
That makes sense. Sometimes he would strike her at night.
Yeah, that's all that's...
Wow. No.
Also, I feel like the moral of the story is it was a nice send-off to eat Ka after he had died. There was a lot of meat left over. There was, not very much to do with it other than eat it. But it was a good way to like commemorate his life. And so like now I'm like this weird person who's like eaten a pet that I have lived with. And like, I think I have kind of normalized it. Like when friends of mine are like, oh, my dog is like getting old and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, is the meat still good on it? Like, are you going to consider it all maybe like eating it? And then people look at me like I'm
like, what? Oh my God, that's hilarious. Maybe if you had like a pet pig.
Oh yeah, if I had a pet pig, that intention would start very early on in that pet.
You'd be like, this baby needs to be fed a lot.
Basically, let's get you fat. And then I'll give you a good home, but when it's time for you to go,
gone.
I'm inviting everyone.
Maybe don't get pets.
Yeah, I don't have pets now.
And don't, because that's something that's been normalized for you, and I think we need to unpack that. Or we get a pet.
I think I'm like one of the few people I know who survived Georgia Southern without going to therapy. So this is maybe something I should talk to a therapist about.
That's hilarious. Oh my God.
When I'm ready. And this is just the tip of the iceberg.
About Georgia Southern in therapy. So I too have never technically gone to therapy for something from Georgia Southern.
All right.
I know a lot of people who have, and like years later, they're like, wait a second, I'm still processing things from undergrad. I'm like, our undergrad was insane.
But see, I have that like millennial nostalgia. Like I look back at like, you're just unlocking all these silly, funny.
And you know what's awesome is like, so I always thought that like Florida stories were the craziest.
No.
No, you guys definitely have topped Florida stories. So.
Like, we just did the craziest stuff. Like, just
all the time.
Running away from like cops breaking up a party, and a car that we don't know like pulls up and it's like, get in. And we're like, yeah. And then they take us to some apartment and they're like, we'll just hide out here. And we're like, yeah. That's a good idea.
The statute of limitations has run out, so I can freely say that I definitely robbed a bar. What? Which is a story for another time.
Hanging out with me, like now I feel.
All right, so with that, I think we're gonna end this Storyteller's Happy Hour, and maybe next time we'll hear about Ruben's transgressions as
crime.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you get 2 Georgia Southern people on this Storytelling Happy Hour.
We're either gonna have to bring Alicia back, or we're gonna have to find somebody else from the same undergrad, so we can continue these interesting and fascinating and cray stories. So
Yeah, this might actually is giving me the idea of maybe trying to do some sort of podcast that is just Georgia Southern stories, where like I just need to track
Totally.
down and interview as many Georgia Southern alumni and be like, give it to me straight. What the fuck happened to you when you were there?
That's an idea.
Yeah, you should totally do that. You guys
Yep.
should co-host it.
We
That
should
would be
co-host
awesome.
It's done. It's happening. It's done. We need to
All
just work.
right.
Yep, I will hit you up about it.
Woo! All right. So with that, we want to thank everybody. Thank you, Tihi. As always, you're amazing. Thank you, Alicia, for joining us. For those of you who are joining, and it is not Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, just watch the whole damn thing because we are fucking hilarious. And we will see you next time. We'll see you in 2021 at the next Storytellers Happy Hour.